All right, today we're going to talk about section 7.4, which is solving systems of equations by multiplying. You'll note that this is just an extension of 7.3, where we added equations together to get one of the variables to be eliminated. So we have really the same rules that we had in the last video. We need one variable to have the same coefficient but different signs. So we add the equations to eliminate one variable. We solve the resulting equation for the other variable. And then we substitute the result from step 2 into either equation. So what we're showing is, let's say we have a set of equations that looks like this. Now, the x's don't have the same coefficient. The y's don't have the same coefficient. But what could I do? What could I multiply these equations by to get one of the variables to have the same coefficient but different signs? So I think I'm going to multiply this equation by 2 so that I end up with a 4y. So when I do that, and I have to multiply the entire equation, right? So you have to multiply entire equation by whatever number you choose. But here we're going to multiply this equation by 2. So it becomes 10x plus 4y equals 32. Now watch. I can add these equations together and see what I get. 10x plus 3x, 13x. 4y plus a negative 4y goes to 0. 32 plus 20, 52. Then I'll solve, so x should equal 4. All right, so I have x equals 4. So I just finished step 2 here, right? I solved the resulting equation for the other variable. I substitute it back into either one of the original equations. I can go right back here, or I can go right back here. It does not matter. So I'll come over here, I'll take x equals 4 and I'll plug it into this. 3 times 4 minus 4y equals 20, right? 12 minus 4y equals 20. So I'll subtract 12. Come up here and I'm going to say negative 4y equals 20 minus 12 is 8. Divide by negative 4. Y equals negative 2. So my answer should be 4, negative 2. Now let's check. I'm going to come into this equation and say 5 times 4 is 20, plus 2 times a negative 2, which is minus 4, equals 16. All right, I'm pretty confident of that answer. We're going to do a few more examples. All right, I'm looking at this, and I said, what can I multiply these by to get them to have one of the variables to have the same number with a different sign? Well, notice I have a 6 here and a negative 2. What if I... Okay, you'll notice this slide kind of jumped in the middle of our video here. So I'm erasing it, and I'm starting over on this problem. What do we want to multiply one of these equations by to get the same coefficient in front of a variable with different signs? I'm going to multiply this by 3. I'm going to rewrite the first equation. Then I'll multiply negative 6x plus 9y equals negative 15. All right, let's add these equations together. Let's go negative 2 plus 9 is 7y equals negative 14. Y equals negative 2. Whoops, sorry, let's throw that back into the first equation. Figure out what x is. 6x plus 4 equals 1. We're going to subtract 3, subtract 3. 6x equals negative 2. X equals negative 1/3. Let's see if this works. Right? Okay. Let's see if that's right. Oh gosh. Guys, I was thinking too far ahead. I will subtract 4. I will subtract 4. 6x equals negative 3. Now x equals negative 3 over 6, which is negative 1/2. Now let's check this answer. I'll use the second equation. Negative 2 times x, which we said is negative 1/2, plus 3 times y. Does that indeed equal negative 5? So negative 2 times negative 1/2 is 1, plus a negative 6 equals negative 5. That works. Second equation, I'll do it in my head. This is negative 6. Oh, let's see what's x. 6 times a negative 1/2. Oh, sorry, is negative 3 minus 2 times the negative 2. So negative 3 plus 4 is 1. It works. I'm going to get rid of some of this so this one actually is done. Let's try again. Second one. What do we have to multiply one of these equations by to get the same variable, same coefficient in front of the variable, different sign? Well, I'm going to attack the y's because I can multiply this by negative 2 and get that to happen. So I'll multiply negative 4x minus 10y equals negative 6. And I'll rewrite the second equation. All right, those will zero out. We're adding this. Negative 4 plus 3 is negative x equals negative 9. X equals 9. Let's plug back in here. 2 times 9 plus 5y equals 3. 18 plus 5y equals 3. Subtract 18. Subtract 18. 5y equals negative 15. Y equals negative 3. So my answer should be, I believe, 9, negative 3. I'm going to check it. We take the second equation for giggles. 3 times 9 plus 10 times negative 3. Does that indeed equal negative 3? 27 minus 30 equals negative 3. Good. Let's move to the next one. Now notice, these are not in the same form, right? We have to get them in the same form first. So let me rewrite this up here. 3x minus 7y equals 5. Down here, I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. So now this is negative 5x plus 9y equals 5. All right, well, one's not jumping out at me as much as I'd like. But I believe if I multiply this equation by 5 and this equation by negative 3, I will have the x's with the same coefficient, right, with a different sign. So let's do the first one. 15x minus 35y equals 25. The I don't want negative 3 on the second one, do I? I just want 3. Negative 15x plus 27y equals 15. Add those together. Okay, those zero out. Negative 35 plus 27, right, is negative 8y equals, and that's 40. Turns out it should be a nice number. Y equals negative 5. Let's pick one of the original equations. 3x minus 7 times negative 5 equals 5. 3x plus 35, right, equals 5. Subtract 35. 3x equals negative 30. X equals negative 10. So I think my answer should be negative 10, negative 5. But I need to check that. So I'm going to pick the second equation right here. See if it works. 9 times negative 5. Does that equal 5 times negative 10 plus 5? This is negative 45 equals negative 50 plus 5. It works. That's great. So you see, there's some work to be done here. One thing, give yourself plenty of room, okay? We're going to try a word problem now. So Darlene is making a quilt that has alternating stripes of regular quilting fabric and sateen fabric. Sateen, don't know what that is, but she spends a total of $76 on 16 yards of the two fabrics. Okay. The quilting fabric costs $6 per yard, and the sateen fabric costs $4 per yard. We want to write a system of equations that can be used to determine the amount of fabric she purchased. Well, we know she purchased a total of 16 yards, right? So let's define some variables, and let's say X will be the number of yards of the quilting fabric. Y will be the number of yards of the sateen fabric or sateen fabric. Well, she bought a total of 16, didn't she? So the number of quilting yards plus the number of sateen yards had better be 16. Okay, well, let's look at the cost now. She spent $76. And the quilting fabric costs $6 a yard. The sateen fabric costs $4. Well, if I know if X is the number of yards of quilting, and I spend $6 per yard, that tells me what I paid for the quilting fabric, plus $4 per yard times the number of yards of the sateen fabric, that should equal 76, right? So I have two equations. Now, I could solve this any way I want. Substitution or elimination. Since we're in the elimination section, I'm going to solve it by elimination. I want to multiply this equation over here by something so that when I add it to the second equation, one of the variables will be eliminated. I want to make this coefficient on this y -4. So I'm going to multiply this whole thing by -4. -4x minus 4y equals 16 times that -4, right? -64. Add these equations together. 6x minus 4x, 2x, zeros out, equals 76, right? Minus the 64, 12. X equals 6. Well, it looks like she bought 6 yards of the quilting fabric, which, if I bring it back here, that means I bought 10 yards of the sateen fabric. Let me see if that works. Let's pick this equation just to double check. So 6 times 6 plus 4 times 10, does that indeed equal 76? 36 plus 40. It sure does. Okay, so you will be given some work to do on this section, so please complete that homework. All right, gather up questions. The next time we get together, we will go through this. Thanks.